It is now my honor to introduce our speaker for this morning, Reverend Dr. William E. Flippin, Jr. His career in ministry and pastoral leadership spans over 3 decades. He is particularly proud of the growth with which his church, Greater Piney Grove Baptist Church in Atlanta, has been blessed during his tenure there. In recent years, he's developed projects that better equip the church to serve its congregation in the greater Atlanta community. He is a Nashville native and a graduate of Fisk University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics and business administration. And while at Fisk, he was an active member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, where he is now a lifelong member. He learned a Master of Divinity degree, cum laude, from Emory University's Candler School of Theology. He also holds a doctorate of ministry from the McCormick Theological Seminary in Chicago. He's a certified life transformational coach and a certified leader coach, so he strives to raise leaders among those who serve. His legacy is building leaders. He carries out the mission of Jesus Christ by raising leaders here and abroad. His focus on leadership reflects very thoroughly his care and compassion for others. He wants others to find their inner passion and their strength, and to grow them and to use them in the world around him. He enjoys helping people to think outside of the box. He uses various means to help people to change their perspective. In fact, he showed us a little bit of those items last night at dinner. When you look at the foreground versus the background of a picture, you see different things. So he uses that technique to help people to understand those who see things differently than they do. And it helps to bring together church families, deacon boards, ministry boards, and so forth. All of Reverend Dr. Flippin's and Mrs. Flippin's children attended HBCUs. That's not in the biography. 3 sons graduated from Morehouse, and their daughter graduated from Fisk. All of Reverend Dr. Flippin's sons followed him into the ministry, and they're carrying on his legacy. To me, that's such an outstanding demonstration of your charisma and your ability to reach out to others, and I applaud you for that. So graduates, you will now hear an inspiring sermon from Reverend Dr. Flippin. Thank you very much.
A widower lived in a small town in the Midwest. He was quite lonely with the passing of his wife. His children lived in other parts of the country, so most of his friends were older, sickly, and could only visit occasionally. He went to a local pet store one day and explained his situation to the owner, exactly saying, "I'm lonely, I'm in the house all alone. What pet could I get that I wouldn't have to do a lot of care for, that could keep me company?" The pet store owner readily said, "I have exactly what you need." There was a canary who could sing and fill the room. It's a small bird, but it would sing all day, and sometimes at night when he wanted it to be quiet. For the first week, the man was delighted. He was very happy with his purchase, until about a week after having the canary, he had to clean the cage. When he reached in to clean the cage, he discovered that the canary had only one leg. Of course, he was furious. He was upset. He angrily took the bird in the cage back to the pet store and said, "The nerve of you selling me a defective bird. You probably knew it only had one leg when you gave it to me, and because I was old, you thought I was stupid." The pet store owner looked with him a very stern look and said, "Sir, did you want a bird that could sing or a bird that could dance?" Graduates, you are here today because you came to Tuskegee determined to be true to your purpose and your intent. Some wanted you to dance, but you were determined to sing. You were determined to graduate and to one day walk down the aisle being a graduate of Tuskegee University, and we applaud you today. Allow me to talk a little while from the topic, creative history making. Now, of course, being a Baptist preacher, we start off all our sermons with first giving honor to God, who's the head of my life, to Dr. Lily D. McNair, my friend, to Dr. George Roberts, my friend, my poor wife that has been married to me 45 years this month, to Dean Greg Gray, we went to Emory together. May I give a shout out to Dr. Verda Lester, her son, daughter, and precious grandson go to our church in Atlanta, and we thank God for them. To the Board of Trustees, to the administrative staff, to the faculty, alumni, student body, parents, and of course, this graduating class of 2019. Yes. Why don't you say that, 2019? You've been looking forward to this year for a long time. It is a very, very extremely high honor to stand before you where your president, Dr. Lily McNair, the first female president, is presiding over this weekend of festivities. Of course, a Fisk graduate, Mary Murray Washington, was the first principal of Tuskegee, but Dr. McNair is the first president of Tuskegee University. She is the 8th president in 138 years in this wonderful and sacred place. Allow me to just probably do a little prophesying by saying that I'm convinced that Tuskegee is on the brink of breaking ever further ground and barriers and insights and research under her leadership. She is the 8th president. The number 8 actually means a new beginning. If you know the story of Noah and the ark and the flood, after the waters rescinded, 8 people were saved and came out of that ark to begin a new civilization. There are 7 openings in your head. Now, don't try to do it in your mind. You can go ahead and go to counting if you want to. There are 2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth, 2 nostrils. The 8th hole is a freak or another head. There are 7 notes in an octave. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. The next note is a new octave. There are 7 days in the week. The 8th day is another week. Turn the number 8 vertically, and you have infinity. So, Dr. McNair, I am convinced that this is no accident. You being the first female president, the 8th president, Tuskegee, this is a new era, this is a new order that will be relevant and real for many centuries to come. Let's give Dr. McNair, God bless you. Genesis 4:21 tells the story of Israel crossing the Jordan into the land of promise. They had wandered in a trackless wilderness for 40 years, led by a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Moses had died, and Joshua is the new leader. Joshua was destined to be a slave, but he became a liberator of God's people, just as Moses did. And so as they got to the Jordan, God intervenes, and just like he did with Moses crossing the Red Sea, miraculously the waters parted. Think about it, 40,000 soldiers crossed that Jordan River ready for battle. 603,550 people crossed the Jordan. Once all had crossed over, Joshua instructs 12 men to gather 12 stones from the midst of Jordan. He said to them, "Place them in full view for all the generations to see. And when you see these stones, they will ask, 'What meaneth these stones?'" What does these stones mean? What do they memorialize? What is their message? Joshua said, "It will be a sign that Israel crossed over the Jordan and that God had kept them and directed them to a land flowing with milk and honey." So today, the history of Tuskegee, the magnificent buildings, the museums, the airfield, the graves, the street names, the National Historic Site, the dormitory names, are stones that our elders have left us. They are memorials. As they worked, I'm sure they could sing the song as we just did, "Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod." Now, soon, these stones will become places in your memory. They will become a place that you will no longer see regularly. Your teachers, your dorms, your romances, your A's, B's, C's, D's, and some F's. College days swiftly passed, imbued with memories fond. But now, it's time for you to leave this place and start out with your stone. What it says to these coming after you. The buildings are here, the campus is here, growing from 100 acres to 5,000 acres. What will your stone say? What will it say to the larger community? What will your stone say to generations yet unborn? Now let me tell you one stone you can never forget. You must never ever forget those stones that prayed for you, sacrificed for you, and tolerated you for you to get to this point. Stones, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandmamas, big mamas, papa, big daddy. Don't forget those stones. I saw several ladies as I was looking out my window this morning coming in here slowly on their walkers. Don't you forget those stones. These were the stones that some were able to pay your tuition. Some were able to pay your fees. Some were able to pay your books. Some were able to pay your dorm fees. Some were able to get you out of trouble. But one thing I know, these stones prayed. Did you hear me? These stones prayed for you. Now, if you know anything about church, there's a song that says, somebody prayed for me, had me on their mind, took the time and prayed for me. Grandma and them and mom, they may not have known algebra, but they knew Amazing Grace. They might have known chemistry, but they knew Cast Your Cares on Him. They may not have known English literature, but they know the Lord will make a way somehow. They may not have known trigonometry, but they knew trust in the Lord with all your heart. They may not have known zoology, but they knew that He is the Alpha and the Omega. And some of y'all along the way used to just think grandma and mom and them were old folk, but I'm sure along these 4 years you had to sing, I don't feel no ways tired. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy, but I don't believe you brought me this far. Don't forget those stones. Now I want you to take your stone. You've got a stone that this university and life is giving you this weekend. If you're going to have the stone and be successful, keep a positive attitude. See the glass half full and not half empty. Your attitude will determine your altitude. Mama used to say something good, and if you can't say anything good, keep your mouth shut. And I know with what's going on in Washington, it's hard to stay positive. But you have got to believe the best. You've got to believe that you are more than a conqueror. You've got to believe that God has a plan, a destiny, a legacy that must be realized with you carrying your stone. And what God has for you is going to be for you. Jeremiah said, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for good and not for evil, to give you your expected end. You know what your expected end? That He would do exceedingly abundantly more than you ask or think, according to the power that worketh in you. There will be difficult lessons. You've heard that already. But don't lose sight. Every now and then, look at that stone of your training, your life. Aim high. Set goals. Benjamin E. Mays says it must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life does not lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in you not having a goal to reach. It's a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It is a disaster to be unable to capture your ideal, but it's a disaster to have no ideal at all. Failure is not a disgrace, but low aim is sin. Dr. George Washington, Dr. Booker T. Washington said, excellence is doing an uncommon thing in a common way. Take your stone. Take your stone. And I want you to take your stone from this place and get involved in what in the church we now call marketplace ministry. Marketplace ministry. When I went into the ministry, the church met on Sunday, shouted, took up an offering, took up a building fund, and you never saw anything built. Choir would sing, fight over their robes. That was church. But the church in contemporary times must still have church and sing, but we also must be involved in the marketplace. We're going to have to feed the homeless. We're going to have HIV intervention. We're going to have voter education and voter registration. And not just give out food, but also teach us what to eat and what not to eat and how to prepare our food. We've got to be involved in the community. Dr. McNair says we must be involved in community-based intervention. You didn't come to this place to get a stone just so you can go out and get some bling bling. You did not come to this place and get a stone so you can just have houses in the suburbs, Mercedes and Bentleys, large corporate salaries. But God gave you this opportunity in this historic place full of stones for you to get your own stone so you can leave here helping somebody as you pass along. Cheer somebody with a word or song to show somebody that they're traveling wrong. Then your living is not in vain. Dr. Washington further said the highest test of civilization of any race is in its willingness to extend a helping hand to the less fortunate. I want you to know the world is counting on you. Your race is counting on you. Dr. Washington further said, if you want to lift somebody up, if you want to lift yourself up, learn to lift somebody else up. Our children are counting on you. Carry your stone. All of us in here must become a conduit, a role model, an example to make this a better place for the least, the last, and the lost. Oh yes, there are some stones in here that will have a career called social worker, engineer, nurse, doctor, teacher, preacher, and elected officials that serve the community and not politicians. You've got a stone. Now let me just say this to you, because I have this problem with young ministers who all want to go to the big city. Everybody want a church in Atlanta. They want a church in Philadelphia. Do you not know the Bible says that he blesses in the field just like he does in the city? And there are a lot of folk that are in the fields that's counting on you to bring your stone, just as Dr. Booker T. Washington came to Tuskegee. I was looking out the window again today and I said, I'm sure that man had no idea that Tuskegee would grow into the place that it is today. Guess what? You have no idea of the potential that is inside of you, and that you will carry your stone and be involved in creative history making. Now maybe you need to leave here and place that stone. Remember that stone with a string on your finger. You might need to put a Post-it note up. You've got to remind yourself. You've got to rehearse it. You've got to remember it. You've got to demand it. You've got to expect it. You've got to proclaim it. What meaneth your stone? What meaneth these stones? I'm waiting on y'all to tell me.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Flippin, for your inspiring message. Graduates, we're looking forward to you taking your stones from Tuskegee out into the world. We are depending on you. And as Pastor Flippin was speaking, I thought about the word optimism. He talked about seeing the glass half full instead of half empty. Optimism will take you further than you can imagine, but you've got to have the self-confidence to know that you are growing into leadership. So thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Flippin. I think it's a message that we all can learn from.